Pastor, doesn't science disprove the Bible?
Isn't Genesis just a fairy tale?
Is God for real? Did he really create everything in 6 literal days?
Didn't God just use the Big Bang?
Why is there death and suffering? Do you really believe the Bible?
Didn't man evolve from apes?
For answers to these questions and more, stand by for Believing the Bible.
Welcome to Believing the Bible. This is Scott Lane with Terry Reed, Dr. Ken Harris, Dr. Carl Williams, and our producer, Jeremiah Rosenthal, all with the San Antonio Bible-Based Science Association. We are here to reassure you that you can believe the Bible from the very first verse. In note of the 100-year anniversary of the Scopes Trial, last time we went through the questioning of Darrow to William Jennings Bryan when he famously took the stand. Some of the answers that were given were supplements of what Bryan could have given had he had time to prepare, even in the time that he was at, even with the knowledge of the time. The deal when he took the stand was that he would be questioned by Darrow, and then they would turn around and Darrow would be questioned by Bryan. That second part never occurred. But what we have today is what that testimony of Bryan to Darrow could have been had it not been cut short. Here's how we would proceed with the questioning, starting with Bryan to Darrow.
And now, my good Mr. Darrow, it's time for me to vacate the witness stand and give you the opportunity to defend your belief in evolution. You know, I was surprised to find your choice of witnesses did not include Henry Osborn, touting his Nebraska man, which, by the way, was derived from the study of just one tooth, and he had a French artist illustrate not the tooth, mind you, but the vision he somehow conjured from that tooth of a brutish-looking man. Now, many of the paleontology community think that tooth actually came from a pig. However, your witness, Professor Maynard Metcalf, spent several minutes attempting to define evolution and its relevance to this trial by stating that it was fact. Would you enlighten me as to your factual definition of evolution?
Darrow, as the professor said, evolution is change over time. What we claim is there is no question among intelligent men about the fact of evolution. As to how it came about, there's a great deal of difference.
As you well know, this trial is the first I've endeavored to undertake in many decades, but I seem to recall that facts entered into evidence must be verifiable. That is, we should be able to look them over, test them repeatedly if necessary, before admitting them as evidence. So for those of us presumably unintelligent men who dare to question what evolutionary fact can be, can you submit to the court a definition that fits the description of admissible evidence?
Darrow, according to Professor Metcalf, and I quote, "The fact of evolution is a thing that is perfectly and absolutely clear."
Absolutely clear? Why then did he also say that, and I quote, "There are dozens of theories of evolution, some of which are almost wholly absurd, some of which are surely largely mistaken"? Or what about Professor Bateson's comments? "As to the nature of this process of evolution, we have many conjectures, but little knowledge." Is that how you define absolutely clear facts, with absurdities, mistakes, conjectures, and lack of knowledge?
Darrow said they both are learned scientists with multiple credentials. When they say evolution is a fact, then we must believe them.
Oh, so you're saying that we must have faith in a scientist's statement and regard that as a verifiable fact? But what about your question of him regarding inorganic evolution? What was his absolutely clear answer?
He admitted that he wasn't an expert in the field of inorganic evolution, but since organic evolution has been seen, then inorganic must have occurred or there wouldn't be any life.
So you're saying that since we see organic life on Earth, then that organic life must have had, at one point or other, somehow derived from inorganic material. In layman's terms, you're saying that life evolved from rocks. Now, it sounds like you need even more faith than I do. Aren't you aware that Louis Pasteur totally disproved the notion that life comes from non-life, your so-called inorganic evolution?
I am not familiar with that particular contribution to science from Dr. Pasteur.
Well, we can certainly enter Dr. Pasteur's experimental evidence as legitimate fact, which falsifies inorganic evolution. And if there is no inorganic evolution, then there could never have been organic evolution, unless you invoke a miracle. And if you do that, then aren't you stipulating the existence of the very God you've been trying so hard to disprove?
Darrow, if it please the court, We have already heard from or deposed several witnesses, both scientists and real scholars of the Bible, men who know what they are talking about, who have made investigation to show that evolution is, and secondly, that any interpretation of the Bible that intelligent men could possibly make is not in conflict with every known science. And there isn't a human being on earth who believes it literally.
Slow down there, Mr. Darrell. You are revealing your ignorance of many great men of science, men who not only accepted the Bible literally, but based their scientific premises on the Bible being literal truth. Men such as Matthew Maury, who read from Psalm 8 of the paths of the seed, then went about charting them and thus dramatically shortening the time it took to cross great oceans. Or Johann Kepler, who made his celestial observations while thinking God's thoughts after him. Or Blaise Pascal, who established the science of hydrostatics.
You are listening to Believing the Bible. This is Scott Lane, Terry Reed, Dr. Ken Harris, Carl Williams, and Jeremiah Rosenthal. If you would like to learn more, go to sabsa.org. That is sabbsa.org. Today, again, we are having a theoretical discussion of what would have occurred had Darrow taken the stand in the Scopes Monkey trial, just like William Jennings Bryan did.
Mr. Bryan said, to paraphrase Apostle Paul from the Acts chapter 26, verse 29, I would to God that not only you, but also all who hear me this day might become such as I am.
Bah, then you have to do better than that.
Then perhaps you've never heard of Sir Isaac Newton, perhaps the greatest scientist who ever lived, who said, we account the scriptures of God to be the most sublime philosophy. I find more sure marks of authenticity in the Bible than in any profane history whatsoever. Or perhaps you'd be more convinced by someone from the time of evolution's beloved Charles Darwin, such as Michael Faraday, who discovered electromagnetic induction. He believed the Bible and it alone, with nothing added to it, nor anything taken away from it by man, is the sole and sufficient guide for each individual at all times and in all circumstances. Or perhaps Samuel Morse, inventor of the telegraph, whose first electrically dispatched message was, what has God wrought? Thereby displaying his belief and dependence upon the Bible. Or Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, whose work demonstrated the vast variability contained in the humble pea plant and was a staunch creationist who rejected Darwin's evolutionary ideas.
Darrow, but those men lived decades to centuries ago, and much more has been learned of the world since, especially in regards to the fact of evolution.
Well then, let's discuss our contemporaries, such as John Ambrose Fleming, who developed the first true electron tube for the radio. He not only believed the Bible, but also wrote a book against evolution and was the founder and first president of the evolution protest movement. And then there's the astounding scientist George Washington Carver, whose agricultural research literally saved the farmers of the South. Research he did while humbly seeking the guidance of God of the Bible. And Mr. Carver just happens to be a black man. Of the race, those who preach evolution, such as the writers of the so-called Hunter's civic biology, would deem inferior, a notion which is in direct opposition to what Paul said in Acts chapter 17, verse 26. And made from one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth.
Those men are merely the exceptions that prove the rule.
Please clarify for the court Professor Horatio Hackett Newman's statement, and I quote, the evolutionist stands for and believes in a changing world. Evolution is merely a philosophy of change as opposed to the philosophy of fixity and unchangeability. One must choose between these alternate philosophies, for there is no intermediate position. Once admit a changing world, and you admit the essence of evolution. The particular courses of change, or the causes of any particular kinds of change, are matters that the expert alone is in a position intelligently to discuss. We know with certainty some few things about the course of evolution, and we believe that we have discovered some very important phases of the mechanism of evolution, but these are controversial matters and in no way affect the question as to the validity of the principle. Is Newman saying that change defines evolution? If so, then I'm evolving a scalp of decreasing hair and a girth of increasingly robust dimensions. And is he implying that the Bible stands for fixity and unchangeability? because that is certainly not what the Bible states, such as when we read in Isaiah 51:6, "Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look upon the earth beneath the heavens. Heaven shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment." God prophesied through Isaiah that the heavens and earth are in the process of wearing out. Unlike what evolution promises, the Bible warns that the world is not getting better over time, but is winding down, much like the second law of thermodynamics. So what is he implying here? Also, is he stating that the concept of evolution is so complex that the common ordinary man could never understand it? And my last comment on his diatribe, when he says evolution is made up of controversial matters, if that's the case, then is evolution a fact, a theory, or just some crazy idea?
You've been listening to a dramatization of what the Scopes Monkey Trial could have been had Darrow taken the stand. We will conclude this with our next episode. Believing the Bible now has a new way you can support our ministry and get some great gifts. For a donation of $10 or more, we will email you a copy of Repetition in the Bible by Jack Cassione, which shows the Bible to be a self-proving document and shows God's protection of His Word over the ages. For a donation of $25 or more, we will also mail you a copy of Scott Lane's book, What If God Wrote the Bible, showing 6 things we should find in the world and in the Bible if God is the author of the Bible. To get these great gifts, send your check or money order to SABSA at 7620 Avery, Live Oak, Texas 78233. That's SABBSA at 7620 Avery Road, Live Oak, Texas 78233. This information for ordering is also on our contact page at sabsa.org.
Information for creation events in our area are on our website's calendar page. For more information or to schedule a presentation, go to sabsa.org or call 210-599-7240. When you go to our website, you can click on a link to our newsletter. Our website has a link for contact information on which you can order our newsletter to be emailed to you, or you can call us. Also go to whyshouldyoubelieve.com. That is Terry's website containing articles looking at current day issues from a biblical perspective. SABSA meets the second Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. We are now meeting at Faith Lutheran Church just south of the corner of Jones Maltzberger and Thousand Oaks. There you will find biblical apologetics and creation science teaching found nowhere else in Bexar County, as well as the availability of books and videos on these important subjects. If you missed any part of this show, you can listen to the show anytime by going to the AM 630 KSLR, the Word in South Texas website. Click on KSLR Podcast, scroll down until you find Believing the Bible. Please join us again next Saturday for Believing the Bible. I'm Scott Lane, and for Terry Reed, Dr. Carl Williams, and Ed Salzwell, thanks for listening, and we hope you found today a reason to believe the Bible.